It's so hard to get in a good position where the lighting is right. One of these days I'm going to buy some of those lights that are for filming. I don't know if that's going to help me any, but it'll help you see what I'm trying to say. Okay, I just finished my lunch, late lunch. I had bourbon chicken. Love bourbon chicken. So I decided instead of going to the mall to get bourbon chicken every time I want it, I was going to learn how to fix it myself. And I just happened to have a bottle of bourbon sauce. That should do the trick. I had the chicken, I had the rice, and I had the egg roll. Okay, I had a great lunch now. Looks like I'll be fixing bourbon chicken more often. Okay, I was looking for something on the internet, and I always run across something that, I remember this. So it reminds me of a story. That's just exactly what I did today. And if I don't tell the story now, I forget it. Well, this takes us way back. We've got to prepare you for the main part of the story. You know, there's always a background first. I was a teenager, living in a small town. Not much for teenagers to do, especially in the summertime. You had your high school sports, and you had the movie theater. Downtown movie theater in our town was called the Hippodrome. Now, you go back to the old movies between 1940 and 1960, I probably saw every one of them. Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, Life LaRue, Hopalong Cassidy. There wasn't a Western I didn't see because you had a double feature on Saturday afternoon, and the second feature was always a Western movie. So they can say, there's one lady around remembers us. Yes, I remember them well. But the first-rate movie was the one I was going to see. I could probably tell you all of them on AMC and Turner Classic Movies. Every old movie they show, I've seen it. I can tell you who the stars are. Yeah, I'm pretty good at that. And I prefer them to any of the movies that are being made today. I saw the beautiful stars. I envied those beautiful stars. I wanted to be a movie star. There was nothing else in life to look forward to, but why not choose being a movie star? I couldn't sing and dance, but maybe I could learn how to act. I wanted to be like Lana Turner and Betty Davis. Betty Davis was a little different. I loved Loretta Young. Oh, I've got a list of some of the stars here. I can name them for you. That Ingrid Bergman, one of my favorites. And of course, you know, I never missed a Doris Day movie. That was for sure. Ava Gardner, she was gorgeous. I guess you know she was married to Frank Sinatra at one time. Well, I guess, get right down to it, several of the movie stars were married to Frank Sinatra. There was Katharine Hepburn, Susan Hayward, and June Allison. She was so cute. So, and the men, of course, I was in love with every one of them. John Payne was so handsome. William Holden in his early days, and Cary Grant. I could have kidnapped him, taken him home with me. Tyrone Power, Clark Gable, the list is long. They were all handsome. They were all good actors. In those days, the women had to be beautiful. They had to be able to act. They had to be able to sing and dance They had to have all of the talent to qualify for the movies. And after the movies, I would walk down the street. If I had an extra dime that Mama had given me from my weekly allowance, I'd stop at the drugstore and I would buy my movie magazines. They were 10 cents each. And when I got home, I had my big scrapbook. And on the cover of the magazine was always a gorgeous picture of someone like Lana Turner. And I would cut out the centerfold pictures, and they all went in my movie scrapbook. That was the one little craft habit that I had, and I loved doing it. Now, what I'm leading up to is I wanted to be a movie star. Yes, that was a dream and would always be a dream. I wanted to go to New York and see Broadway shows. When television came along, the dream was even richer because you were able to see those things on screen and you could hear about the Broadway shows and see, oh goodness gracious, Perry Como. He was the love of my life when he was on for 15 minutes each night. From 6 to 6:15, you got to watch Perry Como. Didn't matter what you were doing. If you were cooking supper, you turned the burners off and you went in, you sat down, and you watched Perry Como. That's the way it was in the 1950s. And at that time, my sister was living in Louisville, and she had a TV, and I would visit her in the summer, and together we would watch Perry Como. So, time passes, I get married, have a baby. I'm 21 years old in 1957. My husband's sister came to visit one week, and so I decided we should go downtown Louisville and do a little shopping. I knew my way around downtown because I'd worked there. So my husband kept Jan, who was the baby then, and my sister-in-law and I got on the bus and off we went downtown. Now that was 4 miles. It was on 4th Street, that was the main drag, and that 4th Street led you right down to the Ohio River. Well, the first place I wanted to take her was Stewart Department Store. It was the biggest store downtown. It had 4 to 6 floors, and you had anything you wanted to buy, you could find it at Stewart's. It was a favorite. I took her down to the basement. We went to the basement, to the Colonnade little cafe, really nice cafe, and we had lunch. When we came upstairs, we were on the ground floor. I think we were probably walking by the jewelry counter, and I noticed, gosh, this store's full of people. Why is everybody in town today shopping? What's going on? I'd never seen so many customers in downtown Louisville. Well, we finished looking around, and we started out the exit door that led to 4th Street, which was the main street. The sidewalk was wide. It was lined with people. What's going on? They were 6 and 8 deep from the curb. We couldn't see what was going on in the street. So we couldn't see over the people's heads. So we managed to just scramble our way through to the front of the crowd, and we were standing right on the curb. And I looked up. I could have swallowed my tongue. The first thing I saw was a big long Cadillac convertible. You know, the kind in the 50s that had those big tail fins, lots of chrome. Oh, they were every young person's dream of having a Cadillac like that. But sitting on the back, you know, when you have parades, the mayor or whoever sits on the back of the back seat where everybody can see him. Well, the man sitting on the back seat, I recognized him. It was Lee Marvin, the movie star. Lee Marvin. It was a parade, and I had no idea they were going to have a parade that day. And there we stood. Then I saw Van Johnson. You remember, he played in a lot of musicals. And I discovered then, seeing him up close, he had a lot of freckles. I never knew Van Johnson had freckles. Their makeup man was pretty good. Well, I just was in awe. Every Cadillac was a different color. They were just gorgeous. He passed on by. Then there was Jane Powell, that beautiful little girl with the beautiful voice. I remembered her in Royal Wedding with Fred Astaire. She was so pretty, and she had a voice like an angel. And here she came on the back of that car. I can't tell you what it was like for me that day. Ann Miller came along. Eva Marie Saint. Is that her name? Yeah, Eva Marie Saint. Long blonde hair. Rod Taylor. And I'm trying to think of who some of the others. There were a few I didn't know their names. I recognized their faces, but didn't know their names. But my memory doesn't recall all of them because it was such a situation that you're just bumfuzzled. But I realized suddenly this was the weekend of the premiere of Raintree County with Elizabeth Taylor and Montgomery Clift. Now, they didn't come to the parade. They came later for the premiere movie at the Brown Theater. I could remember, probably earlier, months ago, that when we would go home to visit family, we would drive from Louisville to Corbin, and we drove through Danville, Kentucky. Danville was where part of Raintree County was filmed. We knew that at the time. And as we would come back home, we would cross the railroad tracks at the railroad train station that was being filmed in that movie. And I was always in the hopes of seeing Elizabeth Taylor, but of course I didn't see her. But those dreams of someday seeing a movie star, I never thought it would happen. The dream of seeing a Broadway show, no, not me, from small town. Why would I be going to New York City, and how would I get there? But that one day, I saw at least a dozen or more movie stars, and I recognized all of them. It was the thrill of a lifetime. One of those things that you can't describe your feelings as what you saw that day. It's something I'll always have, and I was looking up something on the internet, and up came a picture of Elizabeth Taylor, Montgomery Clift, and Raintree County. If you've never seen the movie, you should try to find it. I think you might even be able to get it on YouTube. It's worth watching. It's a Southern movie. Well, I call it Southern because she was wearing those long, beautiful Southern dressing back in 1800s, I think. So I just thought I'd bring this little story to you, let you know there are things in life worth remembering. And I thought you might enjoy the story of seeing all those movie stars. I kept that scrapbook until I got married. It had pictures from your photoplay magazines, your motion picture magazine, modern screen magazines, and every page in my scrapbook, especially the one with John Payne. He was so handsome. So, the only other time not the only other time, I was working here in Lexington, and the job I had took me to Washington, D.C. on a few trips. And I was with a coworker. We took advantage of our free time in Washington, and we went to the art museum. We're walking down this long, wide corridor. She's about 6 feet ahead of me. And I looked, and walking across in front of us was a lady carrying a camera case, a big camera case. She had on this beautiful navy blue suit, had a lace white collar around the neck, lace white cuffs on the sleeve, just a beautiful outfit. And I looked at her face, and I was looking at Celeste Holm. Many of you won't even recognize that name, but she played in a lot of Technicolor movies. She was in some of the musicals. And she had a name that I always had trouble remembering. When I wanted to mention her name about a movie or something, it never would come to me. But that day, when I looked up and saw her, I tried to grab my friend because she wasn't seeing her, and I was saying, hey, hey, hey. Couldn't remember my friend's name, but I remembered Celeste Holm's name. She was a beautiful lady. She was much prettier than I thought she was in the movie. So, those things happen when you travel a little bit. You never know who you're going to run into. Ran into Robert Urich. Do you remember Robert Urich? I can't remember what movies he was in, but he did a commercial on television for dog food. And it was on quite often, almost as often as, what's his name? That was the Super Bowl football player. You've seen him. He's doing this insurance commercial. He's on every other program. Anyway, I'm in an antique shop in Midway, Kentucky. Just with friends, and I look up and I see this handsome man standing beside me, navy blue windbreaker jacket. The clerk was standing at the counter, and I kept glancing and thinking, that can't be Robert Urich. So I eased up to the counter and I said to the lady, is that Robert Urich? And she said, yes. He's doing a film in Lexington, and he comes in here pretty often. Well, my heart started pumping, but I didn't have the nerve to ask for his autograph. I just couldn't do it. So those are the movie stars I've seen. And I thought I'd just tell you about it because they're situations that you aren't expecting. And it's a surprise to you. And many times it's something that becomes a memory, a good memory, things that you can talk about and tell your friends about. And it's something you enjoy remembering. So that's my little story for today. I hope you appreciate it, and I know you can top mine any day of the week. But when I think of these things, I think maybe my viewers will like this one. I like telling it, so I hope you enjoyed hearing it. So remember all those movie stars, but I didn't get to see Elizabeth Taylor, and I didn't get to see Montgomery Clift, but that's okay. I saw all their movies. So I'll see you on the next movie. It'll be my movie this time. You have a good day.